The Shadow Club, the Inquisition. Cheryl and I were the first at Stonehenge, since we ran all the way. One by one, the rest began to trickle in. Darren, Abby, Jason, and then OP. Only Randall didn't show, and that made us worry. Generally speaking, Randall was the type of kid who might decide to go play video games instead, but maybe not. Maybe he got caught. Maybe he was sitting in Green's office right now. Maybe he'd talk and tell Green where Stonehenge was. Would Randall give us away? I asked Cheryl. Only if Green grants him immunity, was her response. That sounded like Randall. He'd give us all away as long as he didn't get in trouble. There was no fire in Stonehenge that day, no fun stories and no good times. There were just 6 kids, standing, pacing, not sure of their next move. What do we do now? Asked Darren. We're all on Green's most wanted list, and we're all in trouble. We all may be suspended from school. Don't say that, said Cheryl. It's true, said Abby. Darren's right. Yeah, said Darren. So what do we do now, Mr. and Mrs. Club President? I'm scared, said Jason. I can't be suspended. Heck, this is the first time I've ever even cut class. I can't afford to be suspended either. That kind of thing stays on your record forever, said OP. So what do we do, Jared? Yeah, what do we do? There's only one thing we can do, I said. We have to get Tyson. The only way we can clear ourselves is to make Tyson confess. I say we take that little creep and give him a taste of his own medicine, said Abby. Most everyone agreed. We don't even have to do that. Making him confess is all we have to do, I replied. Yeah, but we want revenge, said Abby. They all agreed on that. I have to admit, I wanted revenge too. Revenge for what he had done to my good friend Austin Pace. He'll be home with his aunt and uncle, or whatever they are. Our best chance is to tell them what Tyson's done. Unless they're as bad as Tyson, they'll believe us, and Tyson will be forced to confess, I said. What if they don't believe us? Asked OP. What if they're axe murderers like Ralphie Sherman says? Asked Jason. Shut up about that, okay? I said. They'll believe us. They have to. I looked at my watch. If we're going to do it, we have to go now. It's almost 3:00. Green will be looking for us. Let's go. I began to lead the way. Wait a minute, said Cheryl. Randall won't be able to find us. Where could he have gone? I asked. With Randall, there's no telling, she said. You want to wait for him? I asked. No, she said, but I guess I have to. When you see Tyson, give him a good punch for me, okay? I turned and led the other 4 to Tyson's lighthouse. We didn't talk much as we crossed through the woods and then the grassy field toward the lighthouse. It was getting colder, but it didn't bother me. Dark clouds were looming out over the ocean, but they were nothing compared to the storm clouds within each of our minds as we approached Tyson's front door. As we got closer, I noticed there was no car parked beside the house, as there had been the night I had spied on Tyson. Wait here, I said, and keeping low, I snuck around the house, looking into every window, leaving Tyson's window for last. Tyson was alone in the house, sitting at his desk, working on those ridiculous marionettes. This was perfect. Perfect. It was even better than I had hoped for. I ran around to the living room window, which was open just a crack, carefully took off the screen, worked quietly to get the window wide open, and then got the others. "Hello, Tyson," I said. Tyson jumped about a mile when he heard me, sending the scissors and string in his hands flying across the room. His eyes went as wide as his beady little eyes could get. What a shocker that must have been, to see the 5 of us standing there, right at the threshold of his bedroom. "Get up," I said calmly. Tyson looked at me, still shocked to see us there. "I said, get up." "Get out of my house," he said weakly. I went up to him and pulled him out of his chair by his shirt, hearing it rip slightly. "I'll call the police and then you'll be in trouble," he yelled. I ignored him. "I like your room, Tyson," I said. "Nice view of the ocean you got here, isn't it? But what's that I smell, Tyson? What is it?" "You better shut up," he growled. "Hey, Darren," I said, "won't you take these sheets off of his bed? I think that's where the smell's coming from." Darren did what he was told and pulled back the blanket. The sheet underneath was clean, but when he pulled that away, there lay Tyson's rubber sheet for everyone to see. Tyson struggled, and then I put him in a full Nelson. "Wow," said Jason. "You mean Tyson pees the bed?" "Oh, didn't you know that?" I said. "He does it every night. It's a wonder he doesn't have to wear diapers." Tyson struggled, and I made the Nelson tighter, pushing down on him until his head could barely move. "Did you know, Tyson, that Austin broke his ankle and he may never run again?" I forced the Nelson even tighter. "I thought you might want to know that." "I hate you," he screamed. "I hate you." "The feeling's mutual," I replied. "You stupid gopher," he said. And then something in my mind snapped. It was as if suddenly I wasn't me anymore. I was someone else, something evil. It was like I was possessed. I jerked Tyson around and took him out through the front door. He struggled all the way, kicking, knocking down lamps, leaving black footprints on the wall. When I got him outside, I let him go, only to slug him full force in the face. He reeled and grunted, and I popped him one in the eye, then gave him an uppercut to the chin. I couldn't stop. I was out of control. Then the rest of the club grabbed him and held him back so he couldn't move. He couldn't even defend himself, and still I pounded away at him, thinking about Austin and Vera and Drew and the rest. I kept delivering punches to his stomach as he tried to kick me away. "Do I get a turn?" asked Jason. "How about me?" asked Abby, "for Vera." Finally, I stopped. "Are you going to confess?" I growled at him. And in his pain, he looked at me and said, "I don't confess to anything." I stepped right up to him, grabbing his shirt again, making sure I tugged it hard enough to rip it, and then, well, I'll never forget what I did next. I'll never believe it either. It will live on in my own nightmares. I spat at him. Just like Randall had done, I spat at Tyson. I'm not proud of it. I'm pretty ashamed of it, all of it, if you must know. But that's what I did. Then I let go of him, and the club grabbed him, holding him back. The dark cloud that had been in my mind was now in my blood, filling up my whole body. It was hatred, evil hatred mixed with power, and together those two things were more dangerous than nitroglycerin. It filled me and took me over. At that moment, none of us were the kids we had been before. We were monsters filled with one desire: destroy Tyson McGall. I stood there like Darth Vader, breathing the power of club leader. I had Tyson McGall in the palm of my hands, and all I could do All I could think to do to him was crush him, like I could crush a soda can. Take him to Stonehenge, I said. Yeah, to Stonehenge, echoed the rest. While they carried Tyson away, I called Jason over. Go get all of his puppets, I said. Tear down that clothesline and bring it along. And don't forget to bring the scissors. At Stonehenge, while Jason played with the marionettes, the rest of us tied Tyson's arms to 2 separate trees with 2 pieces of clothesline. There was enough slack so that it wouldn't hurt, but he could barely move his arms. Cheryl had vanished, leaving me alone as leader. She had probably gone off to look for Randall and would be back soon. You'll go to jail, screamed Tyson, losing his voice. All of you will. You'll see. When my uncle and Mr. Green hear about it, you'll all be expelled from school. You'll see. I stood back, leaning against the wall of Stonehenge, letting the dark power flow through me. As I watched, by my command, the members of the Shadow Club yelled nasty things back at Tyson about him and his family and pelted him with pine cones. Jason, who had been examining the marionettes, turned to me and said, Hey, these puppets are us. He was right. Now, looking closely at them, what I had first thought to be a coincidence was no coincidence at all. The entire Shadow Club was here, as well as some teachers and other kids at school. What are these, voodoo dolls? Asked Abby. You leave them alone, said Tyson, spitting out words I won't repeat. They're mine. Jason looked at me and I gave the signal. One by one, Jason cut the strings and OP tore each of the marionettes into shreds, throwing them at Tyson's feet. Confess, said Darren, and we'll stop. But Tyson didn't confess a thing. He was a hard nut to crack. In a few minutes, there was a pile of little heads and arms and legs and string in front of Tyson. He tried to break free, but the ropes held. You're going to pay for this, screamed Tyson. Pay, all of you. Confess, I said calmly, folding my arms, standing just out of his reach. I'll never confess to you, he said. The Shadow Club looked at me. Time for a new plan. I pointed to the ropes, snapped my fingers, and they ran and cut Tyson down. The beach, I said, and I led the way as the rest carried him down toward the shore. We hauled Tyson down the rocks to the small cove closest to Stonehenge, just below where Cheryl and I had our first kiss. The cove was forbidden, with no homes anywhere nearby, so no one could catch us. It was close to 4:30 when we had gotten there, but it seemed even later because those dark clouds over the ocean were closer now, churning up the sea. We let Tyson go, but formed a semicircle in front of him. With the ocean right behind him, there was nowhere he could run. Leave me alone, he whined. Let me go home. My aunt and uncle will be home soon and they'll be looking for me. You're going to be in so much trouble, he said. We'll let you go as soon as you confess, I said. What's so hard about that? I don't have anything to confess, gopher brain, he replied. You're lying, said OP. And I'm going to be suspended from school because of what you did. And with that, we began to move closer to Tyson. Tyson backed away until his dirty, torn tennis shoes were being washed over by the icy October sea. Stop, he said. You're all dead meat, all of you. We got closer, and he backed away farther. What are you going to do? He asked, suddenly not as angry as he was frightened. Nothing, I said, if you confess. By now, the waves were crashing at his knees and at our feet, but we didn't care how wet we got, as long as we forced Tyson to admit the pranks he had pulled. It's cold. Tyson backed away a bit more. The water was now breaking at his waist and at our knees. Then in one last mercy cry, he said, "I can't swim." When I heard that, I smiled a dark, evil smile and moved closer. If Tyson couldn't swim, then he would have to confess. Either that or learn to swim real quick. That's when I heard Cheryl calling from far away. "Jared!" I looked up. She was on the cliff. "Jared, come here!" she called. "I'm busy. You come down here," I replied. "It's an emergency," she yelled. "So is this," I yelled back. "No," she said, "I mean a real emergency." Figuring that Cheryl had to have the worst timing in the world, I reluctantly left. "You're in charge," I told Darren. "I want a confession from him by the time I get back." And I left them, 4 kids and 1 rough sea, to do battle against Tyson McGaw.